Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new to my channel, I'm Erica and I make writing videos, and today's video is going to be about the short story that I'm currently writing. Now, as far as you guys know, you don't know the name of it because I don't even know the name of it yet, but by the time this video goes up, there should be a title to the story. I'm sorry about that, but like finding time to film and actually, finishing the story is just really time consuming. So I don't even know when this video will go up, but when it goes up, there will be a title for the story. But until then, I'm just going to refer to it as my current work in progress. So my story takes place in present time Chicago, and although we are following one central character, there is kind of a subplot following another character, and in a way they both kind of connect and correlate together. So the main plot is following 23-year-old Camila Jimenez, and she's just, your average 23-year-old. She just graduated college. She got her first job, and what she studied in college was art. She loves art, and mostly digital art. So now, she graduated, and now she is living the life as a full-time graphic designer. And it's pretty exciting. Like, her life has kind of panned out the way she wanted it to. And, she has her own apartment now, and it's just, things are great. The problem is that, she's kind of isolated herself along the ride. She doesn't really communicate with her family anymore, and that kind of ended while she was in college, but even more so after the fact. And this is really problematic because there's a lot of things going on with her family right now. This is the time that they need her more than ever, and she kind of just abandons them. Now, Camila has one sibling. She is 17 years old. Her name is Sophia, and Sophia's kind of like the golden child. She kind of, stuck with the family. She's very family oriented. She's just like this overall like great daughter to have. She has good grades. There's no conflict, like immediate conflict between Sophia and Camila, except for the fact that Sophia really wishes that Camila was around more because, ever since she graduated, she just kind of cut the family off. And it's kind of messed up in the fact that Camila literally lives a couple miles away from the family. So it doesn't make much sense to them why she doesn't want to come around. Camila also has, obviously a mother and father, and her father has been battling with cancer for a very long time, and he had his ups and downs where sometimes he would be good, sometimes he wouldn't. And in this story, he is gradually getting worse. He is really sick, and the doctors are saying that he might not make it. So there's a high chance of him dying, and Camila is just not dealing with it. She's really not. She's ignoring the fact that her dad is dying, and she is kind of putting all of her energy and time into her art and into her job. Because while this is happening, as I said, she's working. She's really trying to kind of kiss ass to the boss almost. She really wants to have a good impression because she's new to her job. And while she's trying, she's also realizing that she's too preoccupied with other things. Like, her creativity is being kind of I don't know how to explain her. She's not able to really be creative as much as she'd like to because of everything going on in her life. So that's Camila. She's our central character, and this is a first-person narrative, so we see everything through Camila's eyes. So another character that is kind of a very vital character in the story is her grandmother, or Oma, Lucinda. Lucinda is in her late 70s. She is kind of like the cookie-cutter grandmother. She's very sweet. She's very patient. She's very kind, and she has a very big issue with attachment. Not in the sense that she doesn't allow herself to get attached, but actually the opposite, where she gets too attached. And, in the story, you realize why she's that way. You realize that, there's something has happened to her that molded her into clinging on to the people that she loves. Anyway, Oma, or Lucinda, and Camila are in a situation where they have to pretty much deal with each other. So Oma has an accident, right? She has an accident in her kitchen. She's not severely injured, but she hurt herself significantly to the point where she can't be alone. And the doctors actually tell Camila's mother that, she can't live on her own anymore. It's time to start thinking about alternate housing, like retirement home or just something like that, because it's kind of dangerous for her to live by herself. Now, of course, naturally, this is not what Lucinda wants. Lucinda wants to be by herself. She enjoys, being independent, but, ultimately she knows that she really shouldn't live by herself. And she's also kind of just trying to please her daughter, because her daughter at the moment is obviously dealing with the fact that her husband and the father of her children is dying. Like, in very blatant terms, he's dying. So she has a lot on her plate. And as, the grandmother, she just kind of wants to, loose it, not add stress to the factor. Now, how does Camila get the responsibility of taking the grandmother in? Well, after several missed calls from her mother, she decides to call her, and her mom kind of pleads with her, and she's like, can you please take your Oma in? She needs someone to take her in. We can't afford a retirement home right now. I'm dealing with your father's medical expenses. I can't take her in because, your father takes up a lot of my time and energy, and I need to be there for him, and I can't manage to. And you're not home, so, she's pleading. She's like, Camila, you have a nice apartment. Can you please take her for a couple months or whatever? And Camila is literally like, she's pissed. She's livid. She really, really does not want to take her grandmother in. Not that she has anything against her, but like I said, Camila is a very, very antisocial, kind of isolated person. And, it's intentional. She didn't want to be kind of really, I don't know how to explain it. She did not really want to be dealing with her family, especially after graduation. She wanted to be on her own, and that's it. But now she's faced with taking in her Oma. So, eventually she gives in. And it's for very selfish reasons. She thinks that maybe her grandmother could help with the rent, or, maybe she could cook. It's things that typically grandchildren don't think, because Camila is not the most preferable grandchild. I think if Camila was my granddaughter, I would be salty and we would be fighting all the time. But besides the point. So she agrees. She picks up her Oma. She puts all of, her boxes and stuff in the trunk. But when she goes to reach for a certain box, which is probably this big, medium-sized box, her Oma, clings onto it for dear life. And she doesn't know why she's doing that. She's just like, can I just take the box? I don't want you to carry it. Her Oma insists that it's fine, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't fight her, whatever. They drive home, and the car ride is exceptionally awkward. She really realizes that she doesn't know anything about her grandmother, and it kind of seems like her grandmother doesn't know anything about her. She didn't know what she studied in college. She doesn't know what digital art is, and it was just a very interesting conversation. And so they get home, and all throughout the entire ride, she's wondering why her grandmother is so reluctant to let her take this mystery box. So when she gets home, she sets up her Oma's bedroom. Her Oma's sitting on the couch, kind of relaxing, and eventually dozes off. And after the room is set up, she goes into the living room, finds her grandma sleeping, and seizes the moment to take the box that is conveniently right next to her grandmother. And she brings it into the room, opens it, whatever, yada yada yada. Inside the box, she finds a quilted blanket. She finds a photograph of presumably her Oma and this boy. She finds a portrait, an old painting that's it's half moon, half sun. It's a traditionally Mexican style painting, and the initials on it say RJ, and she finds a rosary. So she's questioning what's going on. Now, she does have prior knowledge to who the little boy is. She assumed that it's her Oma's little brother, whose name was Ricardo before, his name was Ricardo, meaning he died, he passed away. And she knew that he passed away. She knew that he passed away at a young age, but her grandmother never really talked about him, and she didn't really know why, but she let it go. So as her grandmother is sleeping, she hangs everything up. She puts she puts the artwork up, which she really admires. It's kind of the artwork that she tries to do, just digitally, and she's admired by it. Her Oma wakes up, realizes the box is gone, and she, calmly and collectively asks Camila what happened, and Camila shows her that she hangs everything up. And from there, we start to see their relationship form and like their bond kind of grow. Because, you know, on one hand, Camila is very intrigued, and she also feels like she's like missed out on a lot of her family history, and she wants to know why her grandmother was so attached to this box and obviously the items in the box. So she asks questions, and she asks her Oma to talk about, you know, if Ricardo, or Ricky, as Lucinda calls him, if Ricky made that painting. And she was just like, yes, he did. And she explains that her brother was an artist himself, that he really enjoyed actually painting and like watercolor art, and that was what he wanted to do with his life. And it's so strange because this conversation kind of puts Oma in like this tough position. She keeps trying to like change the conversation and like find reasons to get out of the room. But Camila is really intrigued, you know. She doesn't know much about Ricardo or Ricky. She doesn't know really about what happened. And eventually she gets her grandma talking. The story is really sad, and when I was thinking about it, I kind of just put myself in the situation. Like, I was trying to imagine how I would feel if this happened to my brother, and it became really personal. So essentially what happened to her brother was that, you know, he was always the kid who was very creative, he was very outgoing, and by the way, to give this story some context, he died in 1962. So let's just give the story a little bit of context. That's when he was, you know, that's when he died. And in Chicago of 1962 and around the country really, in like really big cities, there was a lot of civil rights movements happening. And, you know, there's the civil rights movements that we learn about in school, but there was also the ones that nobody really talks about, which was the Chicano civil rights movements. And that was civil rights for, you know, Hispanic, Latino, specifically Mexican American individuals. And during the time, the police brutality was really, really horrific. It was horrific in the sense that cops quite literally got away with murder, and it wasn't, I mean, it was very obvious that they killed them, that they killed people because of the color of their skin. There was no barriers in between. There was no, oh, they weren't following the rules. They killed them, claimed it to be something small, like claimed that they didn't like abide by the law in a very like insignificant way, and they got away with it. So what ends up happening is that Ricky wanted to go to a local shop to buy more paintbrushes because his paintbrushes were kind of getting old, or whatever the case may be. His mother told him that, you know, she didn't want him to go out, but Ricky was just like he's always been the kind of like kid or teenager who thought that nothing bad would happen to him. He would always tell his mom, and, you know, he would always tell Lucinda that these crazy ideas that the cops are going to come after them are ridiculous, and that the world is changing, and that they're going to be accepted as regular people, and that, you know, he generally never let prejudices get to him. So, you know, he never felt the urgency to be afraid at all. And so what happens is that, you know, he goes out at around 9 o'clock because the store closed at 9:45, and he wanted to go get the paintbrushes. And he kind of asks Lucinda to like make a viable excuse as to like where he goes, and she protests completely. You know, she's just like, you can't go out, you shouldn't go out. And then, you know, they get into a little argument or whatever, up until the point where he kind of is like, Lucinda, I'm going, I don't care what you say, whatever. And then Lucinda kind of brushes it off like, okay, don't be stupid, be careful, be home soon, whatever. And that's the last time she sees him. And what is insinuated in the story was that he was stopped by a police officer who claimed that he was out past curfew, and he was never seen again. And the family didn't get a call that you know, Ricardo was killed or died until after the fact, until hours later, when they were already worried about where he was. And it was never kind of like, it was never enclosed with the family of what happened to Ricardo, but it's insinuated that he was murdered by a police officer. It's insinuated that, you know, the grandmother in the story, she kind of talks about like, oh, he must have not, you know, he must have did something that was against the rules, that led to this. And, you know, the police officers were telling the family that he attacked them, that he, you know, he had a weapon when he didn't. And so anyway, she's telling this story as a reoccurrence, and like, as just like telling her what happened to her brother. And all throughout the story, you could see Camila slowly starting to feel like hurt and pain, emotional pain. She doesn't really know how to deal with this. She is pained by just looking at her grandmother. She sees, you know, how much the death of her brother afflicted her, and how she feels so guilty for not being there for him, and like letting him go, because she feels like she's responsible for his death completely. It's been 55 years since he's died, and she's still living with the burden of his loss. And, you know, as a big sister, the older sister, Lucinda really felt like she could have prevented him. She felt like she was responsible for him, even though that's not really true. As Camila's listening to the story and taking it all in, she kind of realizes, she comes to a realization that, you know, her grandmother never got to make peace with her brother. She never got to say goodbye to him. She never got that chance. She never got closure or anything. And she's just so distraught by this that she realizes, holy fuck, pardon my language, but holy fuck, my father is gonna die. Like, she comes to that realization that she is very close to losing her father. And that's kind of what sets everything in motion. That's what kind of drives the story, where she realizes that, you know, he's dying. And after Oma tells the story, she's just like, Mija, there are so many things that I wish I could say to Ricky. I just want this burden to go away. I just want to feel at peace. I know he wants me to feel at peace. And in a way, that's kind of like the grandmother telling her, and very subliminally, like letting her know that she really needs to be thankful that she has a chance to go and talk to her father and see her father. And so after this, she tells her the story. I'm sorry, I kind of like looked up the other way, sorry. Camila kind of comes to the realization that she should call her dad, because she hasn't talked to her dad since after graduation, and it's already present day, so she needs to talk to her dad. So she calls her dad and she talks to him, and that's the moment where we see her really changing. Like, that's the changing point in her character. And after she gets off the phone, she looks at the artwork that she put up on the wall, and she realizes that the artwork is falling apart. She didn't notice it before, but she starts really looking at it, and she notices that it's, you know, getting old and blah, blah, blah. And she offers her grandmother, like, do you want me to remake this for you? I could remake this for you. We can keep this one. I could laminate this one, and I can make you another one. And the grandmother is just, like, very thankful. She makes it for her, and she comes in contact with her family. That's kind of the gist, and I know it's not really a gist. I told you the whole plot, but I really was excited to talk about this story, and I was really excited planning this and writing it, just because I feel like there are so many important things that this story covers. A lot of themes that I was going for with the story was the importance of family, and just the importance of, like, you never know when somebody that you love will be taken away from you. But I also wanted to demonstrate that people are redeemable, and that, you know, your burdens can't haunt you forever, and you will find peace. And I especially wanted to highlight that with Lucinda, because at the end of the story, not only Camila changes, but Lucinda changes as well. She finally feels like, you know, she got this story out, she got this burden off of her shoulder. She feels like she could rest easy. She feels like, you know, in a way, Ricardo has forgiven her for, you know, actually coming out to saying this, because prior to this, she's literally never told anyone the story. She didn't even tell her own daughter. She just told her daughter that something happened and it was bad. But Camila, her granddaughter, is the first person to know, and that really kind of like took away all of that guilt that she was feeling. And it just also made it easier for Lucinda to actually live with Camila, because Camila just reminds her so much of her brother Ricky, like to the point where she looks just like him. She has the same aspirations in life. She loves art. She's very bold. And, you know, living with her was scary for her for a while. It was scary for Lucinda for a while, because she didn't know if she could handle it. But after the conversation, she kind of like she just felt a little bit more, you know, secure So all in all, that's basically what my story is all about. I hope you guys liked this video. If you guys did, please give this video a thumbs up and just like let me know what you think about my story and if you guys would be interested in reading it. I am very curious as to if this is something that I should make public on the interwebs. Also, please subscribe. I am making more writing videos. I make videos kind of covering different topics and like ideas about writing. I share some of my work, and I would love for you guys to subscribe to my channel. Like I said, I hope you guys like this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.